I'd like to welcome Councillor Pearce to this committee. As you haven't been here before, so welcome, Councillor Pearce. It would have been a welcome to Councillor Renders, but he'd forgotten he was on the committee and he's on a jolly. So, yes. Right. Apologies for absence, please. Miss White.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. We've got apologies from Councillor Sellis and Councillor Moody, who's hoping to join via Teams. Thank you, Chair.
And there you go, you can read that message. Councillor Coulson.
And Councillor Coulson. Thank you, Chair.
Right, if we can do confirmation of the minutes, please, of our last meeting, which was held on the 26th of April, and they're on pages 1 to 8. Does anybody have any questions? Any comments? No? So we're happy to note the minutes. Are we noting? Right. Approving the minutes. May I have a proposer then, please? Thank you, Councillor Kimber. Thank you, Councillor Kemp. All those in favour?
That's carried for those minutes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Declarations of interest, item 3. Members are invited to disclose any pecuniary or other registrable interests. Normal format, please. If anything comes up in the meeting, please declare when you're aware of it. Items requiring urgent attention, I have none. Public forum, we don't have anybody. We've not had anything.
No items, thank you, Chair.
Right. Item 6. You've seen a report for this that was sent out, I think, yesterday. Mr. Greenham has actually tested positive, so he can't be with us. But for those of you, if you've managed to actually read the report, you will see that actually, I think there needs to be a bit more work on it before we can get any real answers. They're hoping for towards the end of the year. We've had a discussion about this. I would have thought nearer the end of the year, beginning of the year, my dear deputy would like it a bit sooner to ask questions and things like that. So we'll bring it to you. How do you feel? Do you feel they need to be a bit further on, or would you like them in sooner?
Very classic.
Have them in sooner.
Sorry, Chair. There's no point in them coming if they haven't got anything, substantial information. So.
They mention about grants and things like that, and they hope to actually be sort of started with one process with the banking industry. They're looking for that to be at the end of 22/23, which is why I thought if we move it further, they might have actually done that bit. But if members feel they would like to ask questions first, before they get to that stage, I'm more than happy that they come back sooner. Councillor Pitts.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it should come back sooner, seeing that this meeting has been delayed because of the gentleman having COVID. But I think there needs to be a lot more put together for the report, for what they're coming forward with.
Okay, what I will do is we can either go to July, but I will leave it with Mr. White to have a look during this meeting, because the October meeting looks quite busy already with Fusion and the annual work program. Yeah, right. I will leave it with Mr. White and Mr. Brooke to discuss, and also availability challenges. Thank you very much. Right, so moving on to item 7, this is going to be via Teams, and it's going to be item 7 and item 8 put in together. Our officer Gemma, I can't think of Gemma's surname, Bristow, I was going to say Barrow. She would have been item 8, but they're all going to be together, and hopefully they're all there, are they, Darryl? Right, okay. So good afternoon, Andrew and Matt, wherever they are.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Okay,
In the ether.
they're in ether, right. Okay, lovely to hear from you both. Would you like to please give us an update as to where things are and how things are going?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to run through a quick presentation, and then Andy, myself, and well, you tell us how you want to sequence it as far as questions are concerned. A quick question from me: how long do we have?
10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Okay, I'll do my best. Right, so let me just share my screen, if that's okay. Brevity is not my strong suit, but I know it's something I need to improve on. So I'm going to rattle through these to give more of an opportunity for questions, really just to give you an idea of the work of Connecting Devon and Somerset, and bring you up to speed with exactly where we are and where we're going. I'm going to whiz through this because I'm sure many of you will be aware of the work of the programme, but essentially we're a partnership programme of local authority, government and business that exists to deliver super fast speeds, and it's an important distinction, so that raising properties up to 30 meg per second or higher. We do it for all of the obvious reasons about business, supporting communities, and our work within the public sector. And this middle bullet point, I suppose, is one of the most important. It sits there and it looks a bit bland, but essentially we have state aid clearance to provide subsidy into build where the commercial market has deemed that there is no commercial payback. So essentially, the commercial market says we're not going there. Those are the areas that we can go to, and we can provide subsidised contracts. So predominantly the rural parts of the southwest. We operate in phases. The first phase has concluded back in 2017, 2018, and now we're delivering on our phase 2 contracts. Across the whole of the CDS region, we work with Airband, Wessex Internet and TrueSpeed on those phase 2 contracts, and today it's specifically talking about the Airband contracts. So we operate at volume. There are over 1,100,000 premises within the CDS region, and when we started, essentially nobody had superfast. The baseline was tremendously low. We delivered some, I think we're now up to about 330,000 premises, and industry delivered about 650,000. So within that first phase, using a technology called fibre to the cabinet, where we run fibre out to green roadside boxes, and then the signal travels the last mile, if you like, using copper. Between us, we got close to nearly 1 million properties, but there are still 150,000 odd to do. We have been working with Airband since 2015, and initially they were a fixed wireless provider. So we completed a project that was specifically within the geographies of Dartmoor and Exmoor, and we delivered about 5,000 of the very hardest to reach properties using fixed wireless. We've also done a voucher scheme whereby we did some kind of infill and provided interim solutions. And then specific and of most interest to this particular meeting, we worked with Airband on what we call our Lot 4 contract, which is West Devon, Turridge and North Devon. And initially that was a fixed wireless contract. So we had some 8,000 to 10,000 properties delivered using fixed wireless. But during the course of the contract, Airband changed their methodology and moved to fibre to the premise. And that's the bit that we're doing now. We're now doing the second half of that contract, whereas the remaining properties are now receiving fibre to the premise rather than fixed wireless. Just some maps to give you an indication of what you're seeing here, which looks like a very bad skin rash. The circles denote the radius out from cabinets. So when we worked with BT and OpenReach, the cabinets, essentially you can push super fast from a cabinet about 1.2 kilometers. The speed drops every 50 meters that you go. So once you get beyond 1.2, you drop below that 30 meg speed, but you're still seeing a significant improvement up to about 1.8. So what you're seeing here is the inner green rings are those population centres where people got super fast, and the purple rings are where people saw an improvement but didn't take them up to super fast. The dots here then indicate the fixed wireless coverage that went into the national park. And then we move on to the blue dots here, show the wireless coverage that was achieved in the first half of the Lot 4 contract into your district. It's always really difficult to map at this kind of distance, and it can start to lose any kind of meaning. But I tried to be a bit clearer on this slide. So this slide shows the properties within the district that Airband are delivering fibre to the premise with, and we operate in subclusters. So there are lots of small networks that interconnect that deliver that fibre to the premise to properties that are sitting below 30 meg. It's important to emphasise that Airband are entirely at liberty and do pick up additional properties which are not subsidised because they're technically in receipt of superfast. But if Airband's running fibre past the property that has 30 meg to reach one that doesn't, they will also deliver fibre to that property in many instances. And that then can mean that there's a significant additional incidental benefit to a large number of properties where they're then going to gigabit capable speed. So all of Airband's network is gigabit capable of delivering up to 1,000 meg per second. The deployment on fibre to the premises is slightly different to fixed wireless, and there's an initial period where you gear up, and then you have to go out and survey and test your designs, and then plan in the requisite works that are required that can result in not a great deal appearing to happen, but it's essential work to make sure that you've completely road tested your designs before you then try and build them. You then have a build phase and a go live phase. So at the moment, out of the 9 phases of the Lot 4 contract, we are in the teeth of and concluding 6 and 7, and then we just have 8 and 9 to go by the end of the year. And particular activity are in and around these. I've tried to make these slightly more meaningful because they're at a closer zoom level. So the Milton Abbott area, and essentially what you're seeing on each of the next 4 or 5 slides, the line shows the indicative fibre route where it is running, and then the purple dots show the contracted premises. And this, I think, is quite a good example because you can see that in this instance, fibre runs straight through pretty much the centre of Milton Abbott. Now, those properties, most of them already have superfast, but it provides an opportunity then for many of them to then be upgraded to fibre to the premise on that incidental basis that we talked about. Tavistock and the outer lying area is I suppose the behemoth of the phase 6 part of the contract. I think there are some 700 to 800 odd premises within this particular cluster, and you can see that it stretches out to Horrabridge, up near Sydenham Damrell, and then down to Morwellham, as well as picking up a range of properties within Tavistock itself. And those are properties that did not have superfast at the point the contract started. A lot of the other properties did, but again, the same applies. Fibre will run past them, and there's the opportunity for commercial build. We've also got a lot of activity happening in and around Beer Alston and up around. So this shows actually 2 separate clusters, but they're adjacent to each other. So covering Crapston, Buckland Monacorum, and Milton Coombe. This shows properties. This is a snapshot of where we are at the moment. So against each of those areas, these are the contract premises which have been built to, but they then need to be tested. So in Tavistock, you have nearly 800 already built, of which 500 have been tested. And for the other clusters, you've got the build there on the left-hand side. So those are properties where all of the fibre and the polling and the ducting, etc., has been done, and it's just that finalisation piece. So all of those 950 odd properties, one would expect to be able to take a service within the next month, say. finishing off with some stats. So our data indicates that you've got just under 28,000 properties within the district, of which to date, between ourselves and industry, we've delivered 24,000. You're at 84.5% coverage. And then this indicates where we are currently delivering the remainder of the properties that we have to build, and also what industry has indicated. And that's what commercial means. It doesn't mean a business property as opposed to a residential property. It means that's what industry are doing, and the CDS bit is above. That leaves us with a target by the end of the year, or possibly into the first quarter of next year, of about 93%. And we've got 1,855 properties left to do. There are three current ways in which this might happen. There is a national voucher scheme, which I'm sure Gemma will talk a bit more about in her piece, where you access vouchers from government to create your own bespoke schemes, if you like. We have a small parallel project that can inject funding into community schemes with voucher money that don't quite have enough. And then the overarching national strategy is a thing called Project Gigabit, which will be run nationally, which will procure further contracts to go in and deliver gigabit coverage to those parts of the region that don't already have it. Those are my contact details. I will shush now. I'm not quite sure how.
Communities to get into